Welcome! You're listening to Run With That. Each episode we pick an idea, like Shift Happens, Hindsight, and Eye to Eye. Then we run with that. You'll hear stories from young adults around the globe, including contributions from youth writers, and it's all set to music played by teenage musicians. I'm your host, Spencer Channell. This week I'm doing something a little different. Each day leading up to Friday's inauguration, I'm releasing a new phone interview with a different friend from somewhere in the U.S. We talk about how this year's election has affected our lives and how we plan to move forward in the coming years. These conversations span from as early as the day after election results all the way up to the current week. This series of episodes is called Trumped. Today's episode features Yoni Weiss, or Yoni for short, a theater artist studying directing at Pace University in New York City. As a first-year Pace student and Interlochen alum, Yoni has directed multiple musicals and plays and has even co-founded a nonprofit theater organization, Doghouse Ensemble Theatre. Today, he's going to share one of his Facebook posts in response to November's election results, and then we'll talk.
Tonight, I marched alongside my friends from Union Square to Trump Tower. I walked with them and chanted and screamed and cried and laughed and held hands. I high-fived drivers we were blocking in the road and screamed into the void. It felt good. It felt really good. Then it hit me. Hard. And I saw my family, my ancestors, being marched into concentration camps and gas chambers. I remembered the stories of the 1967 Detroit riot my family has recounted for me. I remembered the photos and stories of Stonewall and ACT UP riots I have scrolled through. I have not lived through any of these events, but they have all affected my world in unimaginable ways. I am homosexual. I have been out of the closet for years. I will never let the voices of my LGBTQ+ brothers and sisters be silenced. I will never stop fighting for transgender rights, for marriage equality, for what I believe in. I will not be a part of the inevitable headline in a newspaper tallying the number of queer kids who have committed or attempted suicide since last night. I will not hide any longer. I can no longer support my friends who make the decision not to use their voices. I understand that some people are not in safe situations to come out, but I know far more people who choose selectively when to embrace their queerness or hide it. I will no longer tolerate my friends or family who will not speak up. I am culturally Jewish. I struggle with this a lot. I cannot believe that there are people in this world who consider themselves Jewish that have voted for someone like Donald Trump. I cannot believe that people are so blind to anti-Semitism in this world, an extension of the enormous amount of xenophobia. I cannot believe that a man who has been academically compared to Hitler is our next president. My great-grandmother wanted me named Jonathan on my birth certificate out of genuine fear that my heritage would come to haunt me as it did her. I am proud of my name. It is not a joke. I may not understand spirituality right now, but I know that the morals my Jewish upbringing has instilled in me have given me the power to live my life as fully as I can. I have been sexually assaulted. I am okay, I promise. I have never put the label of sexual assault survivor on myself. I have never told anyone the story in terms of it being an assault. I removed myself from the situation immediately. I reported it to the right people, and it was handled quickly and professionally. I was smart, I was strong, and I was not afraid. I do not know why or where that strength came from, but I am glad it was there. I am more afraid now than I was then. I am terrified to see a man who has been accused of sexually assaulting so many women, who has talked about grabbing them by the pussy, who has said vile and derogatory things about his own daughter, in office. I know far too many victims of sexual assaults to feel even semi-comfortable knowing what he has done and been accused of. I have clinical depression. I have been told that I am worthless. I have been bullied. I have been told that I brought the bullying and hatred upon myself. Luckily, I have also been surrounded by some of the most amazing, complex support systems I could ever hope for. My family has supported me, and my friends have too. In my darkest hours, my friends have held me and comforted me. I am here for anyone who needs me to be. I consider myself a fierce and loyal friend. My friends are my family, and they know that. I have been raised by some kick-ass women. My mother, my grandmothers, my stepmother, my great-grandmothers, my aunts, my cousins, my teachers, my mentors, my friends, my peers. The women in my life are astounding. I will not allow their well-being to be in danger. My plight is still one of great privilege. I am white, I am male, I am inherently privileged. I am a citizen of this country. I will always stand by my friends who are not any of those things. So I'm done with hate. I'm done with bigotry. There isn't room for it in my life anymore. I have remained Facebook friends with people who have participated in this hatred. I will be removing them promptly. Those of them who have bullied me or others will now disappear from my life. We cannot tolerate hatred anymore. I am not always positive. I am not always happy. I am not always as kind as I could be. I make mistakes. I own up to that. But I will no longer allow myself to participate in hatred of any kind. Instead, I will create more. I will create with my peers, my friends, my family. I will create art that discusses these issues. I will create art that distracts from these issues. I will create art that will comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. I will not let my voice be silenced. I will not accept that my journey is done. I will not accept this bigot as an influence in my life. I will fight for my rights and for others as well. I will be on the right side of history. And I will tell my children about this, about marching, about love, and they will be safe. And so will our rights.
You say in your post that you're unfriending people on Facebook. Who are you unfriending?
I went through a particularly rough year, my junior year. And so a lot of the people that I was talking about with this post were people that had really bullied me my junior year, who had really treated me horribly, and even some continuing to into my senior year of high school. The more I thought about it during this election, the more I realized that these were hateful people. That these were people who, without realizing it, maybe really destroyed a part of me. And I think I just had a moment where I was like, if you are a person who supports this kind of hatred and can't acknowledge that it is hatred and cannot own up to it and apologize for it, I just didn't want them to be connected to me. Some of which I went to high school with and was bullied by, some of which voted for Donald Trump and posted about that and didn't understand why it was such a big deal. The people in my circle, most of them didn't vote for Trump. The artists in my circle, the community I grew up in, the people who were my friends on Facebook, most of them did not vote for Trump. The people who called these protesters like a whiny bunch of crybabies, for instance. Those are people that I have been removing from my Facebook feed. I don't find them valuable to the conversation. I think that if they are suggesting that we all give up and not use our voices, that they are not, again, the type of people that I want to be surrounded with or associated with.
That's an interesting comment. And if you don't mind, I'm going to probe a little farther into this and
absolutely.
Suggest that perspective may be a little hypocritical, because if you are desiring like love and eschewing hatred, and supporting things like tolerance, then isn't ignoring other people's perspectives, specifically those who have voted for Trump, an act of hatred, an act of intolerance itself?
And I would say absolutely, yes. But I am not removing people, who I know, as human beings and know that they did not vote for Trump out of hatred of homosexuals or of women or of Black people or of Asian Americans or any sort of thing like that, or Muslims and Mexicans specifically. I think that having people like Facebook is a personal thing. Facebook is, they use the term friends. They use the term, like and love and poke. And it is my personal space to be comfortable with who I am, to sometimes share things that are personal. And I think that more than anything, I want to feel safe. And maybe it's, in this specific case, I am going after a specific group of people and saying, you don't make me feel safe and therefore I'm removing you. You don't make me feel comfortable in my own skin and you make me feel like I don't belong. And in some ways that is removing a vital voice in this conversation. But I think I wouldn't even want to have those conversations over social media. I would much prefer them in person, because on social media, you can forget very easily that these are real people that you're talking to, and you can really damage relationships through that in a way that I don't think you can as much when you are looking somebody in the eye and having a conversation with them. I think it would be very hard for anybody I know who supported Donald Trump to look me in the eye as a gay, Jewish, survivor of sexual assault and honestly tell me that it's not going to affect me. That his decisions in office are not going to affect me. It's a lot harder for them to look me in the eye and say that and hug me and, or know me than for them to see my, little chat bubble on a screen. We're certainly noticing a big change right now in how we view hatred. This is a lesson, I think, for a lot of people. My parents, did not believe that, things could be so bad when I started telling them about some hate crimes that I had seen posted on Facebook, some involving people I knew. They were like, that can't possibly be real. And I said, well, unfortunately, it is. Unfortunately, this is now the world we live in, where people believe that it is okay to hurt other people because of this man as our president. And I think that this is giving a lot of people who have kind of compressed these feelings of hatred an excuse to express them. And that's a real shame. Suddenly there's all these reports of hate crimes going on everywhere. And certainly this hate hasn't just appeared. It must have been there, but it was being kept quieter in a way, or maybe people just weren't focusing on it enough. Something that we talked about and something that we're still trying to figure out is how do we get to show this to people who are not looking to hear this. And I don't have the answer, and I don't know. I do know that we're not just going to sit around and create, a bunch of experimental theater pieces. We're going to go to a soup kitchen and volunteer. We're going to go to an LGBTQ homeless shelter and help out. It's, it's just putting a little bit of happiness and love back into the world. And I think that if enough people do so, that people who, are not necessarily in the same bubble as I am might notice or might see it or might have the same idea. The first protest I went to, I've only been to one, I should say. I keep calling it the first, but it's because it was the first that happened in New York, as far as I know. First large-scale protest. I needed to go for myself. I needed to yell a little bit. I needed to walk with my friends and feel some form of solidarity. I needed to feel united. Yes, some of the, chants that were there were definitely hateful chants, saying, fuck Trump, done Trump, those are hateful statements. But a lot of them and a lot of the things that I experienced and really stuck with me was about spreading love, about people holding hands, about people holding each other. And that's kind of where I got the ideas to embrace the love that I am lucky enough to have in my life and to erase some of the hatred. I think going to I think these protests, they can be positive. They do not have to be hateful protests. And I think a lot of them have been. I do, of course, there's always the other side of things, but I am choosing to believe in the good of people that understand that we have to work on fixing the divide in our country. We cannot just divide it more.
You've been listening to Run With That, created, edited, and hosted by Spencer Channell. Today's episode was called Trumped Part 2, and Yoni Weiss shared his thoughts following November's election results. We discussed love, hate, and the path forward. Today's music featured Mark Weissglass's original composition, The City of Falling Leaves, for choir, ambient sketches by Nick Weber, as well as a piece I wrote specifically for this Run With That series, Trumped. If you enjoyed this episode of Run With That, give us a like. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spencer88Keys. Also, share us with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Google, Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, Pinterest, MySpace, LinkedIn, and with Rip Van Winkle on AOL Instant Message. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send an email to runwiththatpodcast@gmail.com, all lowercase. This week in Run With That, I intend to release an episode every day, so hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I can't wait to edit this, and I hope I can represent you well. I am going to have to pare down, quite a bit of your comments.
Yeah. Do you want me to say live from New York, it's Saturday night really loud, and then you can just put that at the beginning?
Sure.
I think it'll sum me up really well.
Okay.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night! How was that?
Are you serious about this?
Not put that in the podcast. Or you can put it at the very end as like a bonus track.
Yeah.